Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for Truth show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to Time for Truth show. It's a pleasure to be back with you again tonight. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. And very quickly, a lot of you have been wanting to join as our subscribers. It's very simple. Go on YouTube. A Time for Truth show. Click on the subscribe button. There's no fee, there's no requirements, only that you help the world, help your community, help your neighborhood. Use the technology, use the information that we provide on A Time for Truth. Let's make a better world. That's really what needs to happen. And tonight, we have a special segment for you. A segment that I think you're going to enjoy because it's going to give an example, a model of what nature does and the tremendous complexity and collaboration that exists every moment in silence, in quiet, without strike, without asking for increased salary, without stop, without sleeping at night, benefiting humanity and benefiting really the entire planet. We're talking about the silent and secret collaboration of the trees, of the kingdom of vegetation. Probably you could say of the king or the kings or queens of vegetation. These trees survive because of tremendous organizational collaboration, better than IBM, better than Elon Musk's Tesla. Billions, not hundreds or thousands, billions of employees, billions of Microsoft cells, coordinating continuously without board meetings, without staff meetings, doing so independently and collaboratively and continuously, with some absorbing water, the root organization, with the leaves regulating gas exchange for the remainder of that organization, with vascular tissues of xylem, tiny little tubules that transport water up a tree, and the phloem tubules, which transport nutrition up the tree. With the realization that no single cell in that tree could survive, but that the entire organism proliferates and goes into the future because of that cooperation, that organizational structure with that common purpose. And as I talk today, you'll see that you can apply what I'm talking to your businesses. And if you're looking for business expansion and you're looking for harmony and lack of staff strife, probably a lot will come out from this supposedly just a nature or nature talk, but really goes much further into the realities of existence. These billions of cells absorb water, regulate gas, bring in water and nutrients to the tree. And it's amazing how coordinated this structure is and how this could be actually implemented for human civilization and for collective survival, which it is in the times where humanity actually flourishes instead of destroying each other with wars. Let's go to the next image and let's talk about something amazing which the tree does continuously against gravity, which you've experienced if you walked up steps or run down the street. There's gravity. But the tree continuously pulls this water up through little tiny tubules called xylem. And through these little tiny tubules, through coordinated biological activity, the water is pulled up in a column from the roots up sometimes hundreds of feet to the leaves. No sump pump, no electrical pump, no mechanical pump, all biological. A tremendous biological hydraulic system. And surviving because there's this immaculate coordination, collaboration, and survival with a common purpose of this tree proliferating, of this tree surviving, of each cell supporting the other. And surviving not just for the tree, but for mankind. Through not only the wood and the food and the fruits and the nuts that come from those trees out of nothing, but also from the oxygen and purification that they do nonstop, ceaselessly, without pay. What pay they could get leads one to think, as I pause for a moment, what pay do we give the tree? Cutting it down? Taking its fruit? Taking its nuts? What pay does a tree ever receive? We look at it as an inanimate structure to cut, to use, to make housing, to burn in our stoves in the wintertime because it makes beautiful fire. I pause deliberately. Sometimes we take that for granted. But how is it that it survives every winter? It looks dead in the winter. What if they never came back? It sounds almost ludicrous and almost too simple to talk about. Yet it's nature. And it leads us to think what some philosophers over eons, so many years, have talked about with the importance of an overall viewpoint of nature and not just ourselves. Let's go to the next slide, and we're going to talk about this tremendous technology and miracle of organization that on the leaves have something called guard cells, which are live intelligent structures responding to light, opening and closing, opening to allow carbon dioxide to be taken into the leaf to create photosynthesis with the light, exuding oxygen for us gratis at no cost, with no inflation, and at the same time using the evaporation of that open pore to pull up water through that tree to create all of the products, these valuable products that come from its existence. And these coordinated reactions, we have to realize, have evolved over immense periods of time. The investment that nature has put into these structures is tremendous if you look at that time beyond our lifetimes, well beyond even mankind's probably lifetime. To evolve these forests, to evolve this tremendous plant kingdom that allows the animal kingdom, that allows the planet to have oxygen, along with the algae in the oceans. So, do we really appreciate that? Do we ever really take it into account? Do we just utilize it and think that, well, it's really inanimate and it makes no difference? It leads one to ponder, to meditate, to think about. Let's go to the next slide and we'll see about this evolution that's occurred. That it didn't appear overnight, so that at times as mankind, we expect our evolution to happen more quickly and wonder why there's war. If it took millions of years for the trees to develop, possibly our approach should be a little more gradual when we're dealing with each other as nations, and look a little more at the commonalities that we share on the planet, to not pollute the atmosphere with our weapons and destroy the land with our bombs and chemical warfare, and be more in harmony. Realize that what is valuable sometimes does take effort and time. You don't become an Olympic gold medal runner or swimmer just by desiring it in a few weeks or taking some social media program and applying it. There's an actual physical side to it, a mental intention side to it that we can definitely apply, which is part of the show tonight that I thought appropriate to present, because these forests are living monuments where chemistry, physics, and time have come together and created something beyond belief, beyond price, that continues and continues ceaselessly. Let's go to the next image. Now let's go further now and look at the forest as a living structure that communicates. And then you see on the slide the planet with United States of America from space, and how we also are communicating. And you see the lights, and you see how we are interacting, and how there's an exchange, just as the trees exchange. As humanity, we exchange. The trees exchange nutrients. We exchange what goes to the supermarket. They communicate chemically, and they stabilize ecosystems together, the trees. We, as humanity, can do that with our planning of cities, with our planning of water reservoir preservation, of air conservation, and regulations. The same as a tree would do, really with collaboration. Because where we have living dynamics, let's call them, living structures, living beings, parts of nature collaborating, we can move forward. We can move out of negativity, out of violence, out of war, out of pollution, out of degradation. We can preserve the air and the water that we breathe and the ground that we grow our plants on, and not deplete the soils all across the world. Let's go to the next slide and let's take a look at how humanity and our civilization mirrors what happens in nature. Because we as mankind, in order to come out of the caves, had to start collaborating. Just as the leaves and the roots and the xylem and the bark and the branches work together and have different roles, we had as mankind to take different roles. if we all just wanted to control, who would really want this totalitarian control exerted over them? It wouldn't work in a tree. There is no dictator, fascism, or totalitarian, authoritarian leader in a tree. It actually is collaborative. And it's not a communism, it's a democracy, because each one is doing it of their own volition to create a capitalism of fruit growth, of color, of vertical growth, of nut production, all based on a common purpose, which we could actually implement and apply to humanity. Much like the forest that we go to visit when we go to Yosemite, Sequoia, and really, when you look at it, would be beautiful for us as humanity to implement in different nations, in different communities, in different parts of every country. Let's go to the next image, and let's take a look at the danger of fragmentation, of pulling apart, of controlling others, but refusing to be controlled ourselves, to utilizing others' energy, but not giving back of our own, to use technology, but for a more personal purpose, for monetary gain, not looking at the effects of future flourishing, future prosperity, but for the community in which we live, for the world in which we exist. Because when we destroy for personal gain, we eventually get to the brink or the precipice where nature does not continue, where species become extinct. When cooperation collapses, such as in nature, the systems which took millions of years to evolve and develop disappear in years, in months. You're not going to, and we can't, and no one could, bring them back from a realization if too much time has gone by. It would not be possible. So it's just as damage to the root can harm the entire tree. Division within our societies threatens stability, threatens health and progress, threatens collaboration. We see that with drugs. We see that with violence. We see that with homelessness. We see that with a depressed economy or an inflated economy, depending on what part of the cycle that we're on. So let's take a look in the next slide. And let's take a look at, as you see, collaboration. To have resilience. To have the ability to move forward. Not individuated, not isolated, but collaborative. Like a very coordinated basketball team going to an NBA championship. Like the Venezuelan team that won the baseball classic. They may not have had the biggest names, but they were very well coordinated with a tremendous purpose, and they won the championship. And they took home the prize, and the emotion was tremendous in that country for quite a bit of time due to the joy and pride of a product well done, of an action well done, of teamwork, of collaboration. And that communication, that adaptation, that mutual support allowed the eventual win, the eventual production of a product that was valuable, that was positive. And really, that's what we're looking at in humanity, in nature, on the planet. A valuable final product. Something that helps all, that helps the majority, that helps the civilization and nature to move forward. Let's look at the next slide and let's learn from these miraculous living systems like the tree, which is why I chose the tree, because most of us walk by, we look at it, but do we realize the miracle of this dynamic structure pumping hundreds of gallons of water up, sometimes hundreds of feet, up to 300 feet, absorbing the sun and making fruits and nuts and different types of vegetation, exchanging oxygen for the carbon dioxide that we exhale? Do we really ever think about what it's doing? Do we ever give back? Some of us do. We take care of our trees, we fertilize, we water, we get rid of plague from the tree. Isn't that as it should be for all we're receiving? Shouldn't they have some attention put on them? And so then we have to look at this when we look at humanity. Isn't war really just trying to obtain without really giving anything in exchange? How could that ever work in nature? And it doesn't. So why should it work in mankind or humanity? And it doesn't. It doesn't. We're not learning when we do that, because with the tremendous weapons that exist, the tremendous speeds of Mach that we can go with planes, with bombs, the tremendous possibilities with cyber intelligence, with artificial intelligence, used in the wrong way, how quickly could we be extinguished in a moment? All for authoritarianism, for control, for income. Is it worth it? Or should we take a look and realize that as we progress, we need to implement a little bit of integrity and the evolution and reality of nature to the technology that we're expanding in and assimilating and developing and creating? If we put more collaboration in unison with the technology, wouldn't the product really expand exponentially for all? Wouldn't our fear of war and destruction or loss of identity or stolen identity or sums of money from bank accounts because of somebody using the intelligence in a corrupt, negative, criminal way, wouldn't it disappear? I think so. And it's very important for us to realize that as we've moved away from nature, as we moved away from what some considered, well, that's old style morality. That worked then, but it's not going to work now. The world has moved on. Sir, you need to move forward. You have to come up. It's 2026. That's not going to work in 2030. We have to take a look. Instead of buying the marketing campaigns, let's preserve what we have. Let's look at what we have. Let's look at the future. And let's look at what the Surgeon General of the United States of America said, that our communication in person, in vivo, was totally different than having a communication on a cell phone. And the Surgeon General went on to state that our physical infirmities, our diseases were increasing because of that lack of communication. And he didn't say it philosophically because of his heritage or his religious basis, but as a doctor and a scientist based on scientific studies showing the lack of human communication in person was causing heart disease, diabetes, dementia, lung disease, premature death, and was equivalent to smoking 10 to 15 cigarettes a day, based on scientific studies, from a lack of human interaction, of human communication, not on a cell phone, not on an email, not on social media. in person, in vivo human interaction. So tonight's show leads us to reflect, to awaken, to realize the importance of following certain natural principles, integrity principles, and that the collaboration of humanity along with nature will be important in the ability of life and existence to move forward on planet Earth, our home planet. And if we go to the next slide, we have a future to share. I was born in Cuba. I was very lucky. The United States existed. Freedom. And my family was able to come to the United States of America. And that freedom and that ability to be educated and the fact that the Americans collaborated with us and my family, and I've now been in America for 54 years. Actually, I take it back. I did wrong. For 61 years. Amazing. And why? Because there was collaboration. Because there was communication. Because there was mutual thought of what would happen if someone else had to go to a different country for freedom. We based on morality. We based on integrity. We based on humanity. I urge you after this show to really look at nature, what it provides us, because it doesn't ever go on strike. It doesn't ask for an hourly raise or an annual raise in income. It doesn't ask for insurance coverage. It gives continuously. I think it's time we took a look and realized that as we get so much, as Secretary Kennedy has said, that we live like gods with how much that we have, our ability to travel, our ability to do things technologically. And Secretary Kennedy said we need to appreciate more, interact more, take what the Surgeon General has said, and be more in tune one with the other. Let's not have to go on a vacation to some island to do what we can do right here at home. I hope you've enjoyed this program. I urge you to take a look at the simplicities. I deliberately picked something that I think most take for granted. Let's not take our existence for granted. Let's not think that somebody else is going to do something about it. Let ourselves do something about it. I hope you enjoyed this segment. Thank you so much for participating in A Time for Truth. Thank you for what you're going to do to help our world. Have a very good night. We'll see you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet